My name is Piyush Gathala. I am currently working in postal service, and I gave the UPSC examination 2022 cycle, and I've gotten 574 rank. I scored 283 marks in public administration, which have been instrumental in getting a decent score in the examination. So when I look at overall journey of civil service preparation, I believe that when I started, I studied BTech from IIT Bombay in aerospace engineering, and at that point, it didn't come naturally to me to prepare for civil service examination. Especially the procedure appeared very different. I was not used to writing page-long answers, and I was used to just not focusing on even the handwriting part, and all of this was very new to me. And prelims, I recognized, has lower selection rate than the JEE examination, so that itself was a huge filter. So I was very worried about the entire process, and it was challenging at the start. In my first attempt, I couldn't clear prelims, and that was a big shocker. And from there on, I tried to adopt various methodologies, and in that process, GS score has helped me in all the stages, whether prelims, mains, or the interview part. So this has been the overall summary of my journey. Now let's look at the specific challenges that I faced during the examination. So when we look at prelims, the unpredictability of the papers is very well known. And in this year, even though I didn't write the prelims, but I've heard that it breached even the earlier levels of unpredictability, and it has made life very hard for aspirants. So that was a continuous challenge for me from the beginning. And I believe that having a decent test series is a one step towards good prelims preparation. And for me, I have done almost like all the test series that are available at one stage or another. I've written them. This was my fifth attempt, and so what I can say is that the last test series that I joined was with IAS Score, and it was the last test series that I joined was with GS Score. And in the what I found good about this test series was that it had all the test papers were not like 100 questions long. Few of them in the middle were specific, focused on particular topics, and they were 50 questions long, and I could write them from my home. I didn't take any classroom coaching, but while I was preparing from home, I found it very helpful that the online resources that GS Score provides were very helpful for me throughout the process. And when I mentioned prelims preparation, so joining an online test series was a leveling effect for me, because it made me at the equal level at the person who is preparing from Delhi, for example. So that's the first stage. And the second is having specific focus on subjects. So in that, this approach was really helpful, that they were specific to particular subject, there were questions, and there's focus on static part, which I realize is very important, even though with the ongoing trend, there is an emphasis on current affairs. But realistically, we cannot ensure guarantee of good score in the current affairs portion. But focusing on static is an important part of doing decently good in prelims. So that was very much the role of the test series that I joined with IAS Score for prelims. And I believe that it was a good match for me, because it provided me with adequate time. It was not as time consuming, it was not 100 questions long in every test. And it made me micromanage my topics. So I could look at the particular individual topic and realize that whether it's my strength or not. So that was a very positive effect on my prelims score. And this time, for the fifth attempt, I didn't have much time to prepare for prelims, because I had returned the interview in my fourth attempt, and I was waiting for the result, and I couldn't make it through. So I had hardly 2 weeks. And in that time, what helped me was the preparation that I had cumulatively of prelims in the last attempt. And that was significantly due to the GS score. And let me tell you about my journey of civil service examination preparation. So this was my fifth attempt and third interview. in my first attempt, as I mentioned, I didn't clear prelims. And in my second attempt, I joined postal service. I had 530 rank, and that year I, for the first time, wrote mains and also wrote interview, and I was lucky enough to clear the examination. And I consider that there was significant role of other factors in it, and I can't take the entire credit with myself. And after that, I wrote examination 3 times more. And in my fourth attempt, I gave the interview. And in the fifth attempt, I cleared the examination again with 574 rank. So the entire process of how I've evolved over the 4 or 5 attempts that I've given, I'll try to elaborate on it in a stage-by-stage manner, and especially how I have improved my score in optional is very critical for making it to the list this time. Coming to the stages of the examination preparation. So in the prelims and mains, I believe that you cannot specifically focus on prelims separately, because there has to be some relevance of every topic you study for mains, because mains is what gives you the marks in the end. So my strategy was main centric, but it cost me 1 attempt in prelims in my first attempt. But even then, I would consider that I do not regret focusing on mains more. And eventually, I could clear prelims with ease, but I have always cleared mains whenever I've written it. So that has been an advantage of main-centric preparation. And for that, I believe in a two-pronged strategy. So what I call it is the fort and territory sort of a method. I play Age of Empires game, and in that they focus on, like, you build control on an area by building a fort there, and then you spread yourself around the area. But most important is to have a stronghold somewhere. So that for me was notes. I had very elaborately developed notes for each topic, and I used to always come back to them. I used to not get diverted from them just because I found some new information somewhere. So I believe that having a strong hold, or say fort, is very important in every topic. So you should have a very concise notes, and you should not waver from them. You should not keep looking for new study material every attempt that you make, or every now and then when you write a test series and you realize, oh, you didn't know this, and you suddenly lose focus from other topics. So having very good notes is the first step towards having relative confidence that you can do well in any situation. Then comes the role of territory. And when I mention territory, it means that the overall depth and the spread of knowledge that you have. That you cannot just focus on some small topics, like say when we look at gender empowerment. So you have say 10 facts on it and 10 major issues that are there. These are important, but sometimes the question comes from outside of these. So you should have a general knowledge outside your strength areas as well. And that's what the role of territory is, that you should cover basic knowledge of everything around. And in this, test series help a lot in mains, that you should be open to unexpected questions that are thrown at you. And you're like, wow, I didn't know this before. So that's the part of territory, that you should be aware of that, but you shouldn't distribute the resources. And this is where I would try to clarify that you have to make a distinction between the two parts of the knowledge, that there has to be one strong, constant notes or stronghold that you should have on your each subject, each topic of syllabus. And you can call it as 5-page notes on each topic of the syllabus. You break the syllabus down into 5-page notes on each topic. After that, and only after that, should you widen your knowledge on each topic and be open to, say, bringing in current affairs from each new newspapers. Like, I believe that there are diminishing returns if we just focus on the territory part, like, which are not the core given things in syllabus. So this is where I would believe that having notes is crucial, and this gives you confidence in writing your answers. So this is the approach that I had, and I had very elaborate notes because I believed in this approach. And after that, when you look at the knowledge part, you are covering it in the fort and territory approach. Then comes the feedback part and the personal growth part. In this, I believe that there are two things again. One is self-awareness, that you should be able to look at every day that you spent and reflect on it, that was it a successful day? Were you able to do what you had targeted in that day? And in this, having a planner or a daily tracking of your effort is crucial. You can utilize many apps that are available on Play Store or make a rudimentary physical timetable of your own, that you are going to plan your days according to this. And then come back to it every day. Do not lose hope if you do not follow the timetable for a while and you feel like, oh, this doesn't work. Timetables should be flexible and you should keep on reinventing them by making them more personalized. You don't have to make them idealistic. You are bound to make them idealistic the first time. But if you keep being self-aware, you will come back to it and you realize that, oh, this is not how it works for me. And one knowledge that I have realized in this process is that slogging in hours is not helpful. What is more important is that realizing what are the most productive hours of your day. So for me, I realized that morning hours are very productive. So I used to ensure that I'm not distracted in morning with any of the other issues. I used to read my newspaper in the evening or night. In the morning, I used to focus on the specific tasks that I had related to the examination, that some topics of syllabus I'm going to cover today, some tests I'm going to write today. I used to do that always in the morning part. And this realization came due to self-awareness and having a timetable. So please keep making timetable and you should be flexible about it. You shouldn't be rigid that the timetable that you make is impractical and you end up not following it. So that doesn't help. So this is the self-awareness part. Then the second thing is the feedback from others. This is very crucial. But at the same time, I believe that for some people it is underemphasized, that they do not believe in reaching out to others. And for others, it is sort of a panic reaction, that they only focus on taking feedback from others. They'll try to find this person or that person. They'll try to delegate the success to the person that, sir, you tell me what I should do. And then they somewhere feel that, okay, if this will not work, I'll blame this person. So you shouldn't do that. Firstly, you should be self-aware, but then equal role is of feedback. It is not a replacement, nor is it ignorable. So you should have a peer group to begin with among the people you are working with or studying alongside. And then you should have a mentor or a guide who can read your answers, who can look at your notes and tell you that, okay, this is something you're doing well, this is something you're not doing well. So for me, I believe that in optional, in this attempt, I made special effort to look at feedback. I used to write a lot of mains tests throughout the process, but this time I focused on feedback on them. And I met Abhishek Saxena sir a few times to specifically look at my answers and analyze that what am I not doing well. And it was really enlightening, because when you look at yourself from a third person perspective and you're just sitting and analyzing what are you doing right or wrong, it helps improve your performance a lot. It brings in an added element of self-awareness. Like when you look at your own timetable, that's monodimensional, like you are just looking at yourself. But when someone else tells you, and then you are also looking from outside that environment and you're like, yes, I can do it better, that helps a lot. So taking feedback from others is the crucial part in how you grow as a person in this process of examination, and how your answers improve, how your study schedules improve, how your overall productivity improves. So I believe that taking personal feedback from others is crucial. But before that, get your own house in order. Like, be aware of your weaknesses, be aware of your challenges that you're facing, because no one else can do that for you. So this is the overall approach that I had for the preparation. And to rewind it, these are the four components to it. First is the knowledge part, which has two parts, fort and the territory part. The fort is the knowledge, notes that you have, and the territory is the application of those notes, as well as the new addition through newspaper, test series. So this is where the other supports come. Like, you should write a test series for each topic. Like for mains, I had written a test with GSSCORE for public administration. And in my last attempt, I was also a subscriber of the mains test series for general studies as well. So I have had help in all the stages of the examination from GS Score, and this is one thing that I've not ignored on. I've focused on having a test series, and I've written a lot of tests. So this builds up your territory part. Then I've focused on the two components of the personal growth side, which is having self-awareness, plans, and flexibility in reflecting on those plans. And the final part is having the feedback. So talk to people, take suggestions and advices from them, and show your answers to people. Don't treat your answer sheet just as a desirable or undesirable. That say you write a test and you get more than 100 and you are happy, or you write a test and you get 80 and you are sad. You shouldn't have that approach. You should look at the test series from the perspective effort that you have made. And in this, talking to a person who has checked your copy, it really helps. It breaks down that outcome into the little decision points that you have done, which you could do better. And I really value in this context the conversation that I had with Abhishek sir, because I was not getting good marks in his evaluation, and I was initially worried about it, that why am I not getting good marks? But when I talked to him, I realized that this also is an opportunity for realizing the things that I can do better. If I had good marks, I would simply have kept the copy away and would have felt happy. But that would have made me lose this opportunity of things I can work on. So I believe that this overall four-pronged approach is how you should approach the UPSC at the broader level, especially in the prelims and main stage. Coming to the final stage of the examination, the interview part, I have had a very much of a contrasting experience in this. So I've given interview 3 times, and when I gave the interview first time, I got 182 marks. And that year, in 2019, interview marks were not very high. So 182 was very good score. And I didn't know why I ended up with that score, to be honest. So I thought that there's a lot of luck part or something that is just there in me which gives me good marks. So I was not able to break it down into how have I earned that marks. And in the next attempt, like in the last year, I got 162 marks. And at that attempt, when I had given the interview and I was returning, I felt very happy. I was feeling that I've done better than last year and I'll get a better score, but I didn't. So these 2 attempts made me feel that there's something that I'm missing. And the thing was the confidence that knowledge gives you. Very often in interview, we focus on the personality test point of view, that it's about your personality. And we believe that we can't do much about personality. We are who we are. And to an extent that is true, but within the person you are, there is a window of at least 20 to 30 marks improvement or reduction in score based on the confidence that you have when you enter the interview room. And that confidence comes with many things. First is knowing your strengths and weaknesses, that you know that, okay, this is who I am and I'm comfortable being myself. So if they ask you a question about your weakness, you don't get like stressed. You believe that, yes, this is my weakness, you own up to it and you tell that how you're working on it. So that is one part of it. And another is the knowledge part, which is also equally important. And in this, I went back to my notes of mains and I revised them again. I didn't leave them at the main stage. I was prepared on answering the same questions again in the interview, and I recognized that a lot of the questions are slightly similar. So there is no much gap in the mains and the interview in knowledge point of view. So you should also have the same strength, the things I called fort before, the notes that you have. You should continue to have a strong hold on them. You should continue to be able to tell 10 opinions on any particular issue, any moment in the interview as well. You shouldn't forget that part after the mains preparation. And in this year, I managed to get 179 marks. The interview was very challenging. There were no softballs thrown at me because I was already in the civil service. So they were not assuming me based on my good intent. They were willing to see objectively that I'm good. So when I look at the first attempt that I had in the interview, I feel that they were more focusing on that, okay, he has good intentions, so let's give him a try. But now that was not the case. And I believe that this time I was able to earn every mark that I have gained. So this was possible due to focusing on my own personality, recognizing my strengths and weaknesses, and being objective about them, that they are there. I can't just wish away those things. And then the second part is the knowledge part, which I specifically focused on this time. I had adequate time as well. My interview was on 10th of April, so I had about 4 months of interview preparation, and I utilized them to focus on my knowledge of public administration and at the same time the issues that are ongoing around the world at the time. So this gave me a decent score of 179 in the interview this time, and I'm quite comfortable with the learning that I had in the process. So this is the overall my strategy for examination. And when I look at public administration specifically, so choosing the optional was a challenging aspect for me in the beginning. When I look at year 2017, when I just graduated from my college, I was not sure what to pick as an optional. And there were various people telling that this optional is scoring, that optional is scoring. But the choice for public administration came from three major parts. The first is the familiarity. That coming from an engineering background, I was not very comfortable with totally philosophical subjects. I wanted a subject which is slightly objective, which tries to focus on actual things on ground, that you implement something, what are the problems in that implementation, how can we do it better. So I found that in public administration, in the public policy part, and in general overall the focus on structure of the organization and the theory part as well is very much action oriented. So that was a comforting part. Then the second part was the scoring. So over last few years, the scores have slightly improved in public administration relative to the scores that were there in 2013 to 15, 16 years. So that was another motivating factor, that scores are not bad. And then there is an added element of public administration in general studies and essay, that if you are able to see the mind of an administrator, you can put those points in essay and public in general studies in general as well, and the person will appreciate it, because after all this examination is a recruitment of a public servant. So if you are able to understand the philosophy of public administration, you can more or less understand why a particular topic is important for UPSC to ask to an aspiring civil servant in the mains examination. So that's a hidden advantage of public administration. At the same time, in interview as well, a lot of policy, when you are comfortable with policy, you are able to, in general, tell about what to improve in the governance system of India and what are the values of a civil servant, for example. So overall, this was the second factor. And the third factor was the syllabus. So syllabus of public administration is not too large, it's manageable, and it's not open-ended as I would believe related to other optional subjects. It's not very in-depth like the scientific or engineering optional that I was considering as a choice. So I believe that this was another factor. And finally, one added factor was that there are very few people who have a bachelor's in public administration. So I used to think that the person who has already studied an optional, he would have a relative advantage over me in some other subject. In public administration, that doesn't exist to the extent. And we study that in optional later on as well, that the theory of public administration is still evolving. So it is not established as a discipline related to, say, political science. So if you are an engineer or if you have studied science subject and you're not comfortable with your subject as optional, public administration gives you the ground zero, that everyone is starting from that place and you can build up on it, you can put your own personal efforts and score good. So this is the overall reasoning for why I chose public administration. And then if I look at improving my score in public administration, so in the first mains, I had gotten 265 in public administration, which was a level score that you can clear with this score. And I was stressed in the beginning because I was not comfortable with the amount of preparation I had done for PubAd. But when I got 265, I got little bit complacent that this is how it will be. And my marks, if they improve in GS, if I get to more than 420, 430 mark in the general studies, I will be able to get a good rank. But when due to this, in my next mains, I got very less marks in PABAD. I got 235 marks, and that made me realize that I cannot ignore the optional. I cannot just assume that because I've scored well last year, I will always do so. So if the people who make repeated attempts at mains, I would try to like tell you and reassure you that you cannot ignore your strengths, that you have to work on your strengths as well and keep revising whatever your strengths are. This will be helpful in building some consistency in scores. Otherwise, we become complacent in the subject where we are scoring well. So this time I was not complacent at all, and optional has a significant role in your main score. So I was focusing on optional, and this is why I met Abhishek sir as well, to get specific suggestions on how to improve my score in public administration, and it gave its results. And I believe that effort to output relationship is more predictable in optional relative to general studies and even essay this year, as we see. So I think that optional cannot be ignored, and in optional all the four are important. That you should have your own good notes, you should write test series, be aware of current events, and then you should be constantly self-evaluating, that you look at your own progress of knowledge. And finally, the fourth stage is getting feedback from someone who has already been through the process and who guides other people, like say a mentor. So these four stages are equally important in optional. And by following those stages, I was able to improve my score in public administration from 235 last year to 283 this time. And I'm highly grateful for that. And a significant role in that success has been played by GS Score and Abhishek Saxena sir.